Captain Jake Reeves had survived 3 tours of duty in the outer colonies, but nothing prepared him for this moment. The guards, 7 feet tall, armored in black biometal, shoved him through an archway that rippled like water. The door sealed behind him with a sound like breaking glass. The chamber was breathtaking. Walls pulsed with bioluminescent veins of purple and gold. Floating orbs drifted lazily, casting shadows that moved independently of their sources. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, disappearing into a swirl of stars that shouldn't have been visible from inside a ship. Jake's heart hammered. His fighter had been disabled over the dying planet below, Kethera Prime, according to intel. He'd ejected, expecting death. Instead, he'd woken in restraints aboard this Leviathan warship. Now he stood alone in what could only be a throne room. The temperature dropped. She emerged from the shadows like smoke taking form. Queen Valira. She was taller than her guards, nearly 8 feet of elegant, lethal grace. Her skin shimmered between deep violet and midnight blue, marked with silver patterns that moved like living tattoos. Forearms, elegant and powerful, moved with hypnotic precision. Her eyes, entirely black, flecked with gold, fixed on him with an intelligence that made him feel naked. "Captain Jake Reeves," she said, her voice like silk over steel. "Earth Defense Force. Age 32. No family. Decorated pilot. Survivor." "You've done your homework," Jake replied, forcing steadiness into his voice. His hand instinctively moved toward his hip, where his sidearm should have been. "Gone, of course. I always research my acquisitions thoroughly." "Acquisitions?" Jake's jaw tightened. "I'm a prisoner of war. Geneva Convention applies even in. Your conventions have no authority here." She circled him slowly, 2 hands clasped behind her back, the other 2 gesturing as she spoke. "Though I find your species' attempt at civilized warfare quaint." Jake tracked her movement, refusing to show fear even as his pulse raced. "Whatever you want from me, codes, intel, cooperation, you won't get it." Valira stopped directly in front of him, close enough that he could see the subtle patterns shifting beneath her skin, smell something like ozone and midnight flowers. "I'm not interested in your military secrets, Captain." "Then what?" "I'm interested in you." The words hung between them, heavy with implications Jake didn't want to consider. He took a step backward. "I don't know what kind of sick game this is, but I'm done playing." He turned toward the door. "I wouldn't do that. Watch me." Jake reached the archway and pushed. Nothing. He pushed harder. The surface was solid as diamond now, no longer rippling. He slammed his fist against it, then whirled on her. "Open it." Valira tilted her head, a gesture almost curious. "No. Open the fucking door. You are not dismissed, human." Her voice remained calm, but the room's temperature dropped another 10 degrees. The floating orbs dimmed, then brightened, pulsing in rhythm with his racing heartbeat. Jake realized with mounting dread that the room itself was alive, or connected to her somehow. "You can't keep me here." "I just did." She moved closer, 2 of her hands clasped, the others spread in what might have been a placating gesture. "Sit. We have much to discuss." "We have nothing to discuss. I'm a prisoner, you're my captor." "Simple." "Nothing about this is simple, Captain Reeves." Something flickered in those alien eyes. Was it amusement? Sadness? But you'll understand soon enough. Jake's mind raced through options. The room had no other exits. No weapons. No tools. Just him, her, and the growing certainty that he'd just become something far more complicated than a prisoner of war. Jake refused to sit. He paced the perimeter of the chamber like a caged animal, testing the walls, searching for weaknesses, finding none. Valira watched from a throne that had materialized from the floor, organic, flowing, as much a part of the ship as breathing. "Your defiance is noted," she said. "Most humans break within minutes of entering this room. Some leap. Some beg. Some collapse." Her head tilted. You've been pacing for 17 minutes. Fascinating. Glad I can entertain you, Jake snapped. Your Majesty going to tell me why I'm here, or should I keep guessing? Very well. Valira rose, and the grace of her movement was undeniable, predatory, powerful, yet somehow elegant. 3 cycles ago, my people discovered your world. We've been watching since. Spying, you mean? Studying. She descended the steps toward him. Your species is unique. Fragile, yes. Short-lived, certainly. But resilient. Adaptable. You survive impossible odds through sheer stubborn will. She stopped an arm's length away. Much like you're demonstrating now. Jake held his ground despite every instinct screaming to retreat. Touching. Now let me go. I cannot. Cannot, or won't. Both. 2 of her hands spread in what might have been regret. You were selected, Captain. From millions of your kind, dozens of candidates, you were chosen. Chosen for what? But even as Jake asked, dread coiled in his gut. He'd heard rumors, whispers in the colonies about abductions, experiments, humans who disappeared near alien territories. Valira's eyes held his. My people are dying, Jake Reeves. The use of his first name threw him. It sounded different in her mouth, alien accent making it somehow both foreign and intimate. Not my problem, he managed. We thought we could solve it alone, she continued as if he hadn't spoken. For centuries, we tried. Gene therapy. Cloning. Artificial reproduction. Everything failed. Our numbers dwindle with each generation. In 50 of your years, we will be extinct. Despite himself, Jake felt a flicker of something, pity, maybe. He crushed it. Again, not my problem. Earth has its own issues. But you are the solution. She moved closer, 2 hands reaching toward him but not touching. Human DNA. Human genetic diversity. It's compatible with ours in ways we never imagined possible. A hybrid species could survive where we cannot. The implication hit like a physical blow. No. Absolutely not. Whatever you're suggesting. I'm suggesting survival, Captain. For both our peoples. You mean breeding programs? Experiments. Using humans like livestock. I mean partnership. Her voice raised for the first time, echoing through the chamber. The walls pulsed angry red, then subsided back to purple. When she spoke again, her tone was controlled but passionate. Not enslavement. Not experimentation. True union between our species. Jake laughed, the sound bitter. And I suppose I get no say in this? You were chosen because of who you are. Valira began circling him again, speaking faster now. We observed thousands. Most were unsuitable, weak-willed, cruel, or broken. We needed someone strong. Intelligent. Compassionate, despite what war has taught you. Someone who wouldn't break under pressure. Flattering. Still not interested. 3 months ago, you diverted from your patrol route to rescue colonists from a failing station. Your superiors reprimanded you for abandoning your post. You did it anyway. Jake tensed. That mission was classified. 6 months before that, you refused a direct order to fire on a vessel that might have contained civilians. You were nearly court-martialed. Yet when reviewed, your instinct was correct, there were children aboard. How do you? I know everything about you, Jake Reeves. She stopped in front of him again, and this time when her hands reached out, they touched his face, gentle, almost reverent. Her skin was cool, smooth, electric against his. I know you read ancient literature before sleep. That you send half your pay to your friend's widow on Mars. That you hate the war but fight because you believe in protecting the innocent. Her touch sent unexpected shivers through him. Jake jerked back. That doesn't give you the right. You're correct. She withdrew her hands. I have no right to hold you here. Yet I do, because I must. Must? Anger surged through him. You're no better than the warlords we fight. Taking what you want, damn the consequences. His words cut off as the gravity in the room shifted. Jake's knees buckled. The weight pressed him down, not crushing but irresistible. He collapsed onto the smooth floor, gasping. Valira knelt before him, meeting his eyes at level. I am far more powerful than your warlords, Captain, she said softly. This ship? It responds to my thoughts. These walls? My consciousness extends through them. I could crush you without moving. Instead, I kneel before you. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Because despite everything, I need you to choose this willingly. The gravity released. Jake surged to his feet, stumbling, rage and adrenaline coursing through him. Choose? You lock me in, demonstrate your power, tell me I was selected like some prize. That's not choice. No, Valira admitted, rising with that infuriating grace. It's not. Not yet. Then what? Look. She gestured, and the walls transformed. Jake staggered back as images flooded the chamber, holographic, immersive, overwhelming. He saw Valira's world. Not as it was now, but as it had been. Soaring cities of crystal and light. Gardens that defied physics, floating in impossible beauty. People, her people, in thousands, vibrant and alive. Then the decay. The images shifted. Cities crumbling. Gardens withering. Bodies, so many bodies, laid out in rows. Children who never reached adulthood. Entire civilization watching itself die in slow motion. We were arrogant, Valira's voice came from somewhere in the darkness. We believed ourselves beyond biological needs. We engineered away what we saw as weaknesses, emotion, vulnerability, physical reproduction. We made ourselves perfect. Bitterness dripped from the word. And perfect beings cannot adapt. Cannot change. Cannot survive. The images faded. Jake found himself breathing hard, moved despite himself. I'm sorry. But that doesn't justify. Nothing justifies what I'm doing, she interrupted. I know this. Every night, I question myself. Every cycle, I wonder if I've become the monster my enemies claim. She turned to face him fully. But I am queen. My people's survival rests on my shoulders. If I must be the monster to save them, then I will bear that burden. Jake met her alien gaze, seeing something he hadn't expected, pain. Real, deep pain. You can't force connection. Can't manufacture, whatever this is supposed to be. I know. Valira moved closer, two hands clasped, the other two spread open. Why do you think I chose you specifically? Because I can survive your tests. Because I'm stubborn? Because you understand duty. Her voice softened. You've sacrificed for others your entire life. You fight wars you don't believe in to protect people you'll never meet. You carry the weight of your choices, your losses, your failures. One hand reached out, hovering near his chest. You understand what it means to bear impossible burdens. Jake's throat tightened. She was right, damn her. He did understand. Every pilot he'd lost, every mission that went wrong, every order that cost lives, he carried them all. Understanding doesn't mean I'll help you. I know. She stepped back, and for the first time, he saw her shoulders sag slightly. I knew when I chose you that you might refuse. That your will might be stronger than my need. Her laugh was hollow. Perhaps that's why I truly selected you. Because I needed someone strong enough to refuse me. To remind me that some lines shouldn't be crossed. The admission caught Jake off guard. Then, you'll let me go? I should. Valira walked to her throne, sitting heavily. For the first time, she looked tired. My advisors argued for a more compliant candidate. Someone broken, easily controlled. I refused. I told myself I wanted a true partner, not a slave. But perhaps I was simply too weak to do what was necessary. Jake studied her, this powerful being who'd just admitted weakness. Something shifted in his perception. How many others? Candidates, I mean. 73 were observed. 21 were viable. You were the only one I truly wanted. Why? She looked up at him, and in her alien features, he saw something achingly human. Because when I watched you save those colonists, when you defied orders to spare that ship, I saw someone who wouldn't just survive alongside my people. I saw someone who might actually care. Silence stretched between them. Jake's anger hadn't disappeared, but it had transformed into something more complex. He thought of those images, the dying civilization, the children who'd never grow up. He thought of his own losses, the people he couldn't save. Show me, he said finally. Valira's head snapped up. Show you what? Everything. Your world. Your people. The real situation, not just propaganda. He crossed his arms. You want me to choose? Give me all the information. Let me see what I'm actually choosing. A strange expression crossed her face, hope, maybe, mixed with fear. You might see things that horrify you. I've seen horror before. You might hate me more. Might hate you less. Jake met her eyes. Either way, I'll know the truth. Valira stood slowly, approaching him with what might have been caution. When she was close enough, she extended one hand, palm up. This will be intimate. To show you everything, I must open my consciousness to yours. You'll feel what I feel. See through my eyes. Share my memories. Jake hesitated. This was more than he'd expected, more vulnerable, more exposing. For both of them. Will it hurt? No. But it will change you. You cannot unsee what I'll show you. He thought of the locked door. The demonstration of power. The admission of weakness. This alien queen who'd captured him, yet kneeled before him. Who wielded absolute power, yet asked for his choice. Jake took her hand. Her skin was cool, electric. The moment their palms connected, the world dissolved. The sensation was unlike anything Jake had experienced. Not painful, Valira had told the truth about that, but overwhelming. It was as if his consciousness had been poured into an ocean, every drop of water a memory, a feeling, a moment of her long life. He saw her childhood, if it could be called that. Valira had been born not from a mother's body but from genetic cultivation, one of the last successful births of her generation. He felt her confusion at the cold, clinical environment. Her hunger for warmth, for touch, for connection that her people no longer naturally provided. The memories accelerated. Her training as royalty. The weight of the crown placed on her head at an age when Jake had been learning to ride bicycles. The realization, gradual and horrible, that her people were dying. That she was queen of a doomed civilization. This is why I chose you, Valira's voice echoed in his mind, distinct from the memories. I need you to understand. Jake tried to speak, but he had no mouth in this place. His thoughts formed words instead. Show me everything. No hiding. Her response came as a wave of memories, dark ones now. He saw the failed attempts at reproduction. The sterile laboratories where her scientists had tried every conceivable method to save their species. The rows of failed clones, twisted and wrong. The children who'd died within days of emergence, their genetics too refined, too perfect to sustain life. He felt Valira's grief, raw and endless. Each failure had cut her deeper. She blamed herself, though logic said otherwise. She was queen, she should have answers. Should fix this. Should save her people. Then came the discovery of Earth. Jake experienced her fascination as her scouts first observed humans. Such fragile, chaotic creatures. They killed each other over resources, beliefs, pride. Yet they also created beauty, music, art, stories that moved Valira in ways she'd thought impossible for her coldly logical species. And they reproduced naturally. Messily. Passionately. Successfully. The memories shifted to her decision to study humans more closely. To identify candidates who might, what? Save her people? Be compatible? She hadn't known. She'd been desperate, grasping at any possibility. 73 candidates observed. Jake saw them through her eyes, good people, most of them, but flawed in ways that made them unsuitable. Too broken. Too cruel. Too weak-willed. Then she'd found him. Jake watched himself through alien eyes. Saw the rescue mission where he disobeyed orders. Valira had been observing from orbit, tracking human military movements. When Jake's ship had diverted, when he'd risked everything to save strangers, something in her had stirred. Interesting, her memory self had thought. This one is different. She'd watched him closer after that. Saw his quiet acts of kindness. His reading habit, ancient earth texts, philosophy, poetry. Saw how he carried the weight of his losses without becoming bitter. How he fought to protect, not to destroy. This one, she decided. If any human can understand, it will be him. The memory shifted again, and Jake felt Valira's emotions when she'd first seen him in person. When her guards had brought him to the ship. His defiance even in restraints. His refusal to show fear. And something else, something that made Jake's consciousness recoil in surprise. Attraction. Not just clinical interest or desperate hope. Real, visceral attraction. Valira had looked at this human prisoner and felt something her people had engineered away, desire. Want. Need that had nothing to do with species survival and everything to do with the way he'd met her eyes without flinching. You felt this from the start? Jake's thought voice was shocked. Yes. No defensiveness in her response, just honesty. I told myself it was irrelevant. That I only needed your genetics, your compatibility. I lied to myself. The memory stream continued. Jake saw the encounter from her perspective, how his anger had impressed rather than intimidated her. How his refusal to break had fascinated her. How his compassion, even toward his captor, had moved her in ways she couldn't explain. And he felt her conflict. Her duty as queen demanded she secure his cooperation by any means necessary. But something deeper, something human, ironically, made her want his willing choice. His true acceptance. Not just of the arrangement, but of her. This is why I locked you in, Valira's voice came again. Not just to hold you captive. But because I was terrified that if you left, I'd never feel this way again. That I'd doom my people rather than force someone who made me feel alive. The sharing reached the present moment, Jake's hand in hers, their consciousnesses intertwined. He could feel her now, truly feel her. The loneliness of centuries. The weight of responsibility. The fear that she'd become something monstrous in her desperation to save her people. And beneath it all, the tentative, fragile hope that maybe, this human would understand. Would choose to stay not out of duty or coercion, but because he wanted to. Jake, her thought voice whispered. I'm showing you everything. The good and the terrible. The loneliness and the desire. I have nothing left to hide from you. Images flashed faster now, not just memories but possibilities. Valira's hopes and fears made manifest. He saw potential futures, her people dying while she watched helplessly. Or hybrid children, human and alien, bridging two species. A new civilization born from impossible connection. And in some of those futures, he saw himself. Beside her. Not as prisoner or stud, but as partner. Equal. Chosen and choosing. The final memory was simpler, more recent. It was the moment just before they'd connected. Jake meeting her eyes. Taking her hand despite everything. Trusting her enough to let her share this intimacy. That moment had meant everything to her. I thought, her voice came softly, that perhaps I'd finally found someone who could see me. Not just the queen. Not just the dying species. But me. Valira. Alone and afraid and trying so hard to do what's right. The sharing began to dissolve, consciousness separating back into distinct beings. As it did, Jake sent one final thought to her. "I see you." They separated gasping. Jake stumbled backward, and Valira caught him with two arms, steadying him while the other two hovered protectively. The physical world felt strange after the intimacy of shared consciousness, too solid, too separate. "Are you well?" Valira's voice held genuine concern. Jake nodded, not trusting his voice yet. His mind reeled from everything he'd experienced. Her memories had become his memories. Her pain, his pain. Her loneliness. He understood now. Truly understood. "I need." Jake's voice cracked. He cleared his throat. "I need air. Space to think." "Of course." Valira stepped back, and the temperature in the room normalized. The walls shifted from pulsing purple to a calmer blue. "Though I cannot let you leave the ship." "Not yet." "I know." The statement held no anger now. Just acknowledgement. "But can I? Is there somewhere else? Somewhere I can process this?" Valira gestured, and a doorway shimmered into existence, not the locked entrance but a new opening. "Through there. A private chamber. You'll find human accommodations. I had them prepared, hoping." She didn't finish. Jake walked toward the door, then paused. "The things I felt. What you feel. That was real?" "Every moment." No hesitation in her response. "I cannot lie within the sharing. You experienced the truth of me." He nodded and stepped through. The door sealed behind him with a soft whisper. The chamber was smaller but no less impressive. A bed, human-sized, familiar, occupied one corner. Walls displayed a simulation of Earth's night sky. Small comforts had been arranged, books, food, even his favorite whiskey brand. She'd prepared thoroughly. Jake sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. Everything he thought he'd known had shifted. Valira wasn't just a captor, she was a desperate leader trying to save her people. She wasn't just using him, she genuinely wanted connection, partnership. And the attraction he'd felt when she'd first touched him, the awareness that had crackled between them, that had been mutual. Real. But could he do this? Help create a hybrid species? Bind himself to an alien queen? Leave behind everything human? Not everything, he thought. That's not what she wants. The sharing had shown him Valira's vision clearly. Not human enslavement or alien domination, but true integration. Human passion and creativity combined with alien intelligence and technology. Two dying peoples, humans slowly choking on their own pollution and wars, aliens refined into extinction, finding new life together. It was insane. It was impossible. It was, maybe the most important choice anyone had ever faced. Jake stood and paced, arguments warring in his mind. His duty to Earth. His hatred of captivity. His anger at being chosen without consent. But also, Valira's centuries of loneliness. Her desperate hope. The way she'd knelt before him. The way she'd kneeled. The way she'd looked at him when they'd separated from the sharing. Not as a prize or a tool, but as someone precious. Rare. What do I want? He asked himself. Not what duty demanded or logic suggested, what did Jake Reeves, the man beneath the uniform, actually want? The answer came with surprising clarity. He wanted to matter. To do something that meant more than just the next mission, the next war, the next loss. He wanted connection, real connection, with someone who understood burden and duty and impossible choices. He wanted Valira. The realization shook him. In the sharing, he'd felt her attraction, but he'd also recognized his own mirrored response. The way his pulse had raced when she'd touched him. The electricity of her skin. The intelligence in her alien eyes. The strength and vulnerability combined. This wasn't Stockholm Syndrome. It was recognition. Two people, impossibly different, impossibly alike, finding each other across the void of space. Jake walked back to the door. It opened before he could knock. Valira stood in the throne room, not sitting on her seat of power but standing in the center, vulnerable. All four arms hung at her sides. Her expression, as much as he could read alien features now, looked resigned. "I've decided," Jake said. Her posture tensed. "I will honor your choice. If you wish to leave, I'll arrange transport back to Earth. I'll find another way to save my people. Or I'll fail with dignity intact. I'm not leaving." The words hung in the air between them. Valira's eyes widened, actual shock registering on features that had been so carefully controlled before. "Jake? I'm not leaving," he repeated, walking toward her. "But I have conditions. Anything. Not slavery. Not breeding programs. True partnership. Your people and mine, working together. Learning from each other. Creating something new together, not just continuing what was." "Yes." Valira's voice shook slightly. "Yes, that's what I wanted. What I hoped. And not just for species survival." Jake stopped directly in front of her. "I won't be your political arrangement or biological solution. If we're doing this, we're doing it for real." "For real," she echoed, and he could hear the hope and fear warring in her voice. "You mean?" "I mean I felt what you felt. In the sharing. I felt your loneliness, your duty, your desperate hope. But I also felt," he reached up, touching her face with his much smaller hand. "I felt the way you looked at me. Not as a solution. As someone you wanted." Valira's four arms moved slowly, carefully. Two wrapped around his waist gently. One took his free hand. The last one touched his face, mirroring his gesture. "I have lived 3 of your centuries," she whispered. "I have led armies, conquered worlds, made impossible decisions. And never, never, have I felt what I felt when you took my hand and let me share myself with you." "I saw you," Jake said simply. "All of you. And I'm choosing to stay." "Why?" Her voice broke slightly. "You could demand freedom. I would grant it now. Why choose this impossibility?" Jake smiled, the first real smile since his capture. "Because someone once told me that perfect beings can't adapt or survive. And I'm choosing to be beautifully, messily imperfect. With you." Valira made a sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. She pulled him closer, and Jake let himself be held by 4 arms that felt simultaneously alien and absolutely right. "The door," he said suddenly. "You locked it." "I did. If I walked over there now." Valira stepped back and gestured. The door shimmered. "It's open. Has been since you entered the other chamber. The only prison you were ever in was the one we both feared, the prison of duty without choice." Jake looked at the open door, then back at her. "Guess I'm choosing to stay in this room then." "For how long?" He pulled her down, not hard, but firmly, until their faces were level. "As long as it takes. To save your people. To build something new. To see where this impossibility leads." Their lips met, alien and human, cool and warm, impossible and perfect. The kiss was tentative at first, exploratory. Then deeper as barriers fell away. Valira's arms tightened around him, pulling him closer. Jake's hands found the patterns on her skin, tracing silver lines that pulsed with light at his touch. When they finally parted, both breathing hard, Valira's eyes shone. "My people have a saying, the strongest bonds are forged in the hottest fires. I think humans say something similar." "Close enough." Jake grinned. "Though we usually don't make it sound quite so dramatic." She laughed, actual, genuine laughter that made the room's walls pulse with warm gold. "Then let me try your way. I like you, Jake Reeves. Quite a lot, actually." "I like you too, Valira." He kissed her again, slower this time. "Though I'm still pissed you locked me in. I'll spend considerable time making that up to you. I'm counting on it." The walls around them shifted to a soft, warm purple, contentment, Jake realized. He was reading her emotions through the ship now, a lingering effect of their sharing. And what he read was hope. Real, soaring hope for the first time in her long life. What happens now? Jake asked. Valira smiled, an expression he was learning to read, full of warmth and possibility. Now we begin. Creating something impossible. Building bridges between worlds. And perhaps, she pulled him toward her private chambers, another door opening, we start with just you and me. Learning what it means to be together. Jake followed her through the doorway, not as prisoner but as partner. Behind them, the throne room's door remained open, a symbol of choice, of freedom, of a future built on trust rather than force. The alien queen had locked him in her room. And Jake Reeves had chosen to stay. Not because he had to. Because he wanted to. And that made all the difference.